Hello, this is Wmpyr. I got a question from my student over in Japan, and I thought it was a really good question, so I'm going to share it with you guys, okay? He says, okay, so I'm supposed to mix Escrima with other styles, but in the process of doing so, he kind of felt that certain styles are good for mixing and others are bad for mixing. So he wanted me to elaborate on that. So before I even get into that question, the first thing is the way that Escrima, which is Escrima equals Kali equals Arnis, right? The way that those arts, the Filipino martial arts, those three were taught to me was it was taught to me to be added on to another style. So you mix it with other styles. In other words, you cross train. Okay. Now, there are people that train in Escrima Kali Arnis and they don't do that. They only do Escrima or they only do Kali, they only do Arnis. And I don't think there's anything wrong with either choosing to mix it or choosing not to mix it. Why? Because I believe that your martial arts path is kind of like the way that I view a mountain. There's many ways to climb the mountain. There's many paths to go. Okay, so who am I to say one path is right and one path is wrong? I don't think so. So I don't think there's a problem with that. The problem is when people start going, my Escrima is pure. I didn't mix it. Therefore, my Escrima is better than yours. Mine is more authentic. Mine is 100% pure. That is a negative attitude. It's a superiority complex, and yeah, they tend to have entitlement, and this is not good. Okay, same with someone who mixes styles, and they go, I mix my style. I mix Escrima with other styles. Therefore, I cross-train, and we all know that people who cross-train is going to defeat people that don't cross-train because you're ignorant and you stay in one style. So I'm supposed to beat you. So this is also a superiority complex, and this is also entitlement. So both of those are very bad attitudes. You don't want a superiority complex because you'll be like Hitler, you'll be prejudiced, you'll be racist. You start thinking that you're better than other people. No, this is the bad attitude. And the other thing is entitlement, where you start, well, this is supposed to happen. This is supposed to go this way. I do this, therefore it's gonna be that. That's the result that I want, and that's the result that's gonna happen. No, this is once again entitlement. Real life is chaotic. You never know what's gonna happen, and not being able to flexibly adjust to that, not being able to have a flexible mind. This is just creates the kind of person that just complains when things don't go their way. So that's a toddler. That's a baby. You don't want those kinds of attitudes, right? So my recommendation, once again, is whether you choose to mix or not mix, have a positive attitude, people. And one isn't better than the other. So that's my message. That's the first one. So now, for those of you that are mixers out there like me, you cross train, okay? Now, are there certain styles that are easier to mix than others? And are there certain styles that are more difficult to mix than others? Absolutely, 100%, absolutely. And if you ever encounter a style, or maybe it's not even the style, it's the person, or it might be you. You might be the problem where you go, I just don't like training with the gi. I don't want to wear that, or I don't like to bow. It feels weird. It feels culty, or whatever it is. Okay, you might have this kind of closed mind, where you cannot empty your cup and taste their tea. To truly experience what they're experiencing, you got to be able to do that, but not everyone can do that because we got insecurities, we got preconceived notions, we got, all this messed up stuff going on in our brains, and that's all part of being human. I'm not justifying it. Those aren't good things, but we do have trouble letting go. It's just the truth, right? So if you ever do have trouble, always go back to similarities. Okay. So the more similar a style is, the easier it's gonna be for you guys to cross train together, right? So if you do a style, let's say Taekwondo, you do a lot of kicking. So then, if you cross train with another style that does a lot of kicking, hey, it's going to be easier for you guys to get along. Or at the very least, pick a style that also, has similar stuff to what your style does. For example, karate would be an easier style because, of course, historically there are crossovers there, right? But yeah, a taekwondo person and a karate person, technically it should be easier for them to cross train than some other style, because you guys both do kata, you guys both do one step sparring, you guys both do um, have punches and kicks, so there's a lot of similarities there, so that makes it easier. So start with similarities if you're having any kind of trouble cross training. But ultimately, you want to get towards differences. You want to get to the point where you can appreciate differences. Because if you're training in something where you're doing pretty much the same thing, like let's say a reverse punch. Taekwondo people do a reverse punch, karate people do a reverse punch. And then let's say Taekwondo people kind of focus more on the stance, and let's say the karate people focus a little bit more on the hip usage. Okay, um, then you're still doing the reverse punch, but you have different methods of how to learn the reverse punch. Okay, and by learning another method of still doing the same thing that you normally do, it kind of increases your knowledge and perception of that technique. So that's a good thing to help you understand that technique better. So in this case, it would be the reverse punch, right? But at the end of the day, you're still doing a reverse punch. So the whole idea of cross training, when you look at MMA, it's to cover your weaknesses. So if you're really good with kicks, then to focus more on punching, that's a good thing. But if you train with another style that also does kicks, then your kicks might get better, but you're not covering the areas where you're weak at. And if you look at once again the sport of MMA, if you're a grappling style, then you're a BJJ guy and you cross train with a wrestler. That's all great, but you're still a grappler either way. You want to be adding the stand-up striking, because when you go up in a cage fight against someone that's a really good stand-up striker, then you're still going to be just as clueless whether you cross-train with a wrestler or not. So that's kind of the idea there, where you want to go into a completely different style to cover completely different areas in your game, right? So definitely, some styles are easier and some styles are more difficult. So I wouldn't say good or bad for mixing. I would just say easier and more difficult, and that comes down to similarities and differences. And the answer is you do want both. So that's it for now. Thank you for listening, and take care, folks.